Hello there, welcome back to my channel. So today I have an epic marker comparison video for you guys. I'm going to be comparing my sexy, luxurious Copic markers with these Mont Marte affordable brand markers. Now these Mont Marte markers were actually given to me by the lovely Art Shed Online, who is an awesome art store. I actually unboxed them and tested them in a previous video if you want to go check that out. But today I'm actually going to be doing a full comparison with my Copics. Now to make it a little bit more even, I'm going to be picking Copic markers that are of a closest range of color to the Mont Marte markers and make sure that I have the same amount of markers for each sort of side. And then I'm going to be putting them head to head in an artwork to see which marker comes out on top. Now as you can see, I have picked markers that are close enough to each other, and I'm just doing a little bit of a swatchy watch just to make sure that they are as accurate as they could be, because sometimes the lids of the markers with the colors on them aren't overly accurate to the colors that are actually in the markers themselves. To actually swap out some markers here and there with my Copics because some of them were a little bit dry, but at the end we got there and we got some nice colors that are quite similar to each other. Now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's get into making an artwork. And of course, what am I going to default to when I want to draw something? I'm going to be drawing dragons, of course. Now with this kind of video, it is quite customary to draw possibly the same thing with the Copics and then the exact same drawing with the other markers, or you could do an artwork where it was like cut down the middle and one side would be Copics and one side would be the other markers. But this time I decided I wanted to do just one illustration, but a bigger epic sort of illustration. And with these dragons, I wanted to have one that was coloured in completely with the Copics, and the other dragon would be the Mont Marte markers. But with this artwork, I wanted it to look like a natural sort of illustration. When you look at this artwork, I didn't want it to look like it was just a test and a comparison sort of artwork. I wanted it to look like something that you would end up drawing regardless of what kind of markers that you were using. So that's why you can see they are in slightly different poses and are in different parts of the illustration. Like as you can see, one's on the left and it's sort of lower down, while the other one is on the right of the page and it's higher up. I just felt like this sort of composition was just a little bit more natural compared to, say, a dragon on the left hand side of the page and the same sort of dragon in the similar sort of pose on the right hand of the page. Now getting into this sort of illustration, and I started to do the first thing that I usually always do, and that is I go into the background first. This is mainly because the background is a large area of the page and I really wanted to make sure that I colored in the subjects of the page in a way that they stand out more from the background. So that's why I decided to do the subjects of the artwork last. Also, the background is sort of part of the illustration that is slightly more forgiving because your eye is obviously drawn to the characters. So if I do make little mistakes here and there at the start of the illustration, it's going to be more likely that you won't notice it. So as you can see with the leaves and the branches in the background, you can tell that I did quite a good job picking colors that matched each other quite closely, and I did a few techniques here as you can see. With the leaves, I tried my best to do a sort of feather blending technique. Now, with the feather blending technique, you really are at an advantage if you have a brush nib marker because it just allows you to have a bit more variation in how much ink is in each stroke. Now, as you can tell with the Mont Marte markers that I sort of mentioned in my previous video about them, is that they have a bullet nib and no brush nib. Now, this isn't a deal breaker or anything like that. It just means that you're going to have to work a little bit harder to sort of get the technique that you want. Now with these dragons and the background, I really wanted to try and pick colors strategically so that I was using the most amount of markers that I could in this illustration without it looking overly too rainbow, because I really wanted to have colors picked that actually match where I'm putting them, and it doesn't look like I'm just putting in every single color just for the sake of it. As you can see with the dragons, I picked a base color of pink and purple, and I actually decided to have these dragons have little splotches of pink all over their purple body. Now as you can see, I didn't actually have a sort of pastel light purple come with the Mont Marte markers, so obviously I couldn't pick a pastel purple color to go with the Copics. So what I actually ended up doing was I layered in some pink and a very light blue, and of course pink and blue make purple. And overall, I was actually quite happy with the results of both markers. I was able to get a nice sort of soft, blank, sort of unstreaky area with both types of markers. It was a little bit easier with the Copics, of course, because I had that brush nib that I was able to get a nice little area and have more control with getting in sort of fine details and that kind of thing. When I had to fill in large blank areas of color with the Mont Marte markers, the chisel nib was actually pretty good for that. Now I actually noticed that the chisel nib on the Mont Marte marker is quite wider than the chisel nib on the Copic marker, and that's pretty good because you can sort of fill in large areas. But with that comes with a little bit of a downside, and that is the fact that I had a little bit of control more with the Copics than I did have with the Mont Marte markers. I felt like the chisel nib was just a little bit too wide for me, and the bullet nib was just a little bit too thin for me, and that kind of, I don't know, felt a little bit separated from the art compared to how I feel with the Copics. But that kind of thing is mainly down to personal preference as well. I am very, very accustomed to my Copic markers, and anything that feels slightly different sort of feels a little bit off to me. But if you're the type of person that doesn't even use Copics and needs an affordable marker, these Mont Marte markers are actually very, very good. Most affordable markers aren't actually going to have a brush nib because I feel like the brush nib is a little bit harder to make, and that's why these markers are more affordable. And when you get around that, you realize that the colors are super vibrant and super nice, and you can get pretty close results to the Copics. As you can see, the art sort of speaks for itself here, as you can tell. You can get the same sort of results. You just have to work a little bit harder, I find. With the Copics, it does feel a little bit more effortless to get these kind of results, but you kind of expect that when you're paying a premium price for the product that you're getting. And with the results that you can get with these Mont Marte markers, it's actually pretty good for the price. The main downside to them is the limited range of colors, but you can use little tricks here and there like I did, layering different colors down to get the sort of tones that you need. So I feel like the colors that they actually picked for this set are pretty good because you can layer different colors and layer sort of grays and stuff to sort of, you know, add shadows or darken colors, and you can sort of soften them as well. And as you can see with the results of this sort of artwork here, you can get results that are comparable to the Copics. So I was very, very happy with that, and I was quite satisfied with what I could do with them. So that's my comparison with the Copics versus the Mont Marte markers. As you can see, it's not a crazy sort of review type video. I don't often do reviews because I feel like I'm not experienced enough in an art supply to do a review when I've done only 2 artworks with the art supply. But it was a really interesting sort of project for me to you know, compare the two and see how they sort of compete with each other. So now's the time for my favorite part of the video, and that is the question of the day. I've been doing this lately in my videos, and I'm actually having quite a lot of fun with it, picking a question to ask you guys and reading all of your comments. I love hearing what you have to say and just picking your brains a little bit. And my question is, what is your favorite art supply? Personally, my favorite art supply is Copics or alcohol-based markers. It's just what I have the most experience with, especially Copics. I just feel like I can get really satisfying results with Copics, and I have a lot of fun, and I don't have to wait for paint to dry or anything like that. And if you're not an artist, what is your favorite tool? Say a tool that you would use for cooking, or crochet, or any sort of hobby that you guys have. I can't wait to hear all of the answers that you guys will have in the comments. It is just so fun to me to sort of get to know you guys a little bit more. So here's the final results of this video, and I love this artwork so much. I find that the colors are really satisfying, and the sort of composition and everything was really enjoyable too. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please smash like and subscribe to get your scribble fix in the future. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.